What is up, guys? I am GT Sali, and let's talk about The Last of Us 2. Now, there's been a lot of leaks and a lot of rumors coming out lately, so I just kind of wanted to report and get everybody up to date on what is going on with The Last of Us 2. Is it coming out? Is it official? Is it confirmed? So, what we have so far up to this point, nothing has been confirmed officially by Naughty Dog or by Neil Druckmann, but we have some pretty good evidence that The Last of Us 2 is either being worked on or maybe even a 2018 release date. So let's start from the beginning. One of the first things that got people talking about The Last of Us 2 is Nolan North, who does the voice for Nathan Drake in the Uncharted series. And actually in The Last of Us, the first game, he did the voice for David. If you'll remember, he's the weirdo cannibal guy who tried to befriend Ellie. Anyway, he was doing an interview and he kind of accidentally mentioned that they're working on The Last of Us 2.
Do you have any more projects with Naughty Dog, or is this the last one
For now, last one. I know they're doing Last of Us 2, but my character in Last of Us kind of met a untimely demise. I know they're doing Last of Us 2. I know they're doing Last of Us 2. I know they're doing Last of Us 2.
He took back his statement later and tried to say, it was just from a fan's perspective. That he assumed because of how popular it was they would make it, but that was a little while later, and I think Naughty Dog made him do that. But the thing is, Nolan North is very bad at keeping secrets, and he's done this in the past with Uncharted 4 and other projects that they've worked on. So that was the first thing. Then another thing that kind of got people talking again is once Uncharted 4 was released, on the epilogue, which is, I think, after the 22nd chapter or something like that. Spoiler alert. When you play as Nathan Drake's daughter, I think her name is Casey. When you get to walk around her room, if you walk around to the... I think she has like a mirror. There's a little poster that says The Last of Us American Mothers, something like that. The Last of Us American Mothers, and it says Dark Horse. Which is actually the same, which is actually a real publisher that actually published, I think it was called American Nightmare, American Dream, I forgot what the name of the comic was. So it could be hinting maybe at another comic, but everybody took it as confirmation, or at least a tease for The Last of Us 2. Also, what might be another hint is that that sequence was very similar to the opening sequence in The Last of Us, the first game. And you're also playing as the main character's daughter. So you're playing as Casey in Uncharted 4, and that's exactly how The Last of Us opened up. So maybe that was kind of like a hint at, The Last of Us. This wouldn't be the first time that Naughty Dog gave a hint about the next game they're working on within an Uncharted game, because if you remember in Uncharted 3, in one of the opening sequences also, when you're in the bar, after you beat up all the henchmen, if you go look at the bar, there's a little newspaper, and if you read it, it says infection starts to spread, and I think this is the same newspaper that Sarah picks up when you walk into the bathroom. So that was kind of a hint at The Last of Us, even though nobody even knew what The Last of Us was because it was an original IP. But now, once again with Uncharted 4, now they're hinting at The Last of Us 2 within that. So anyway, with that poster being released, people started to speculate that maybe you'll play as Ellie's mom, or maybe that is Ellie, and she's pregnant, and she's wearing the mask to protect her baby or something like that. I don't think that it'll follow Ellie's mom, and here's why. Sometime after E3, an image got leaked. It was supposed to do The Last of Us 2 as the cover for Game Informer, and they also had an article already written. And in the article, now this got leaked and nobody knows, and it hasn't been confirmed if it's real or not. But it says in the article, it says E3 2016's biggest surprise detailed. So basically, I guess they were supposed to reveal it at E3, and then this article was supposed to follow up that same month and go into detail about whatever they teased at E3. For whatever reason, they didn't show it at E3, along with some other games like Red Dead Redemption, which I was really looking forward to. But I didn't even know about The Last of Us 2. That would have been really great. But I mean, they already had a really great lineup, so maybe they were saving some of this for PSX, which is coming up next month. But anyway, I'll go ahead and read this article here, and then I'll talk about what each line means, maybe. Our team wanted to focus on the realism, from facial expressions to character movements to the narrative and story. And speaking of the story, as the game is scheduled to 2018 and its precursor was launched in 2013, Ellie will be 5 years older, aging 19, exactly the same time that separates the two games. According to Neil Druckmann, director of the first game, Ellie has grown up and has become more mature, just as players did, and you will see that through her journey. Bruce Straley, who has also worked in the first game and in the recently launched Uncharted 4 at Thieves' End, gives us a sneak peek in regards of the new possibilities we will have in the sequel. The larger scenarios leave many possibilities of interaction, and this was a big deal to the team. The gameplay freedom is huge. We want the players to be creative and explore these mechanics as much as possible, using anything they have at their disposal in each location. According to the producers, the game will not be a sandbox, but it will bring open world features, being possible to explore between, and I quote, city-scaled areas. Ellie will show herself as a strategist in these occasions, given that in these 5 years she's learned a lot with Joel, much more than what the previous game has revealed, says Straley. But that doesn't mean she doesn't show us her wilder and more violent side. However, that will be dependent a lot on the situation and maybe even the players. Finally, Druckmann tells that the game will show us important moments that shape the personality of this new Ellie we're going to get to know. They are directly related with what we wrote in The Last of Us storyline structure. It's all we can say at the moment. The Last of Us 2 is about a journey of seeking answers, and we want to impress the players with revelations and the way they happen. It's possible that The Last of Us 2 will be coming with the new version of the PlayStation 4 that supports 4K resolution. A new version of The Last of Us Remastered, also with 4K support, is in Naughty Dog's plans as well. Alright, so the breakdown, what's important to pull from that? The game is scheduled to come out in 2018, which sounds about right. If they were going to reveal it at E3 in 2016, 2 years later, that's enough to build up hype. Slowly start releasing some posters, and then some trailers, and then some gameplay, and then, the trailers will start coming out, and by 2018, the hype train will be full speed. It says here that our team wanted to focus on the realism, from facial expressions to character movements to the narrative and story. So, I mean, I look at how realistic the faces look in Uncharted 4, and Naughty Dog has already said that that's not the best that they can do. Basically, the same way they've improved from Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2, and then from Uncharted 2 to Uncharted 3, they said that's how they're going to continue to improve with these games. So if you look at, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and now imagine something even better than that. I mean, I don't know how much better it can get. When I look at Uncharted 4, to me, it looks like, how can it get any better? But I'm sure they're going to impress us with The Last of Us, or whatever their next game is. Ellie is 5 years older, so exactly the time that separates the two games. So she was 14 in The Last of Us, so that sounds about right. So she would be 19 in The Last of Us 2. And I like that the same amount of time that separates the two games is the time that's passed in the game since the last one. It makes it feel like it takes place in, our real world, and that the characters are actually aging and stuff. The game will not be a sandbox, but it will bring open world features, being possible to explore between city-scaled areas. So what this sounds like is the same way Uncharted 4, it was kind of what they called open linear, where it was still a linear game, but it felt open. It felt like you could go different directions or you could explore. The first thing that comes to mind is Madagascar, when you're in the 4x4 and you're driving around. It feels very open and there's lots of different paths you could take, but at the end you're still going in one direction. I think open linear is a very good word for that, and it looks like that's what they're going to bring to The Last of Us. They're going to take a lot of what they learned from Uncharted 4 and apply that to The Last of Us. Okay, this is very interesting. I thought the most interesting point in the article is The Last of Us is a journey of seeking answers. And of course, if you remember how The Last of Us left off with Ellie asking Joel if everything he said was true, when she said, promise that everything he said about the Fireflies is true. And he says, I swear. And she just says, okay. The fact that she even asked him means that she thought he was lying. So when it says a journey of seeking answers, I imagine, as she gets older, she's still going to have that survivor's guilt, and she's going to start to ask more questions. And eventually, she's not going to be satisfied with Joel's answer, and she might go out and start to, seek those answers. Maybe she'll go back to the Fireflies and ask them what went down. And there's already articles out saying that, Ellie kills Joel. I don't want that to happen, but I have a feeling that, she's going to want to go out and get answers, and Joel's going to tell her, like, hey, don't worry about it, and try to convince her to stay, but she's going to end up leaving, which means we might have a game with just Ellie, which, I like both the characters together. I like Joel and Ellie. I wouldn't want a game with just Joel. I don't know if I would want a game with just Ellie. I mean, I think it's Naughty Dog knows what they're doing, so if we get a game with just Ellie, I'm sure it'll be great. But I would really like to have the both of them just the same way we did with The Last of Us 1. Plus, even if Ellie decides to go and seek answers after he tries to convince her not to, I think Joel cares about her too much, and he'll go with her anyway just to protect her. And yeah, he might be older. I think he was 40 something, and 5 years has gone by, so he might be 45, maybe close to 50. But I mean, look at Sully in in Uncharted. He was still jumping around. He was in his 70s. So I think Joel can handle it. Plus, this is a time where people are tougher, they're rougher around the edges. So I think Joel could handle that. Ellie, of course, will be 19, so maybe she'll have an edge over him. I don't know. It says The Last of Us 2 will be coming out with the new version of the PS4. So that's interesting, because even if The Last of Us 2 was announced at E3, the new PS4 still hasn't been announced. So it's interesting that they would say that in that article, to say that it will be coming with the new version of the PS4 that supports 4K resolution, and a new version of The Last of Us Remastered, which will be the third time I buy the game if they remaster it in 4K. I bought it on the PS3, then I bought it again remastered on the PS4. If they remaster it again in 4K, of course I'm gonna buy it, and that'll be the third time I buy that game. Probably the fourth time. I think I bought a copy for a friend of mine. So another thing about the gameplay is that I read an article that talks about how they're working on this game a little differently. It says that the developers will be utilizing principles of psychology to depict death as pain and suffering instead of just absence of the characters. So if you remember in The Last of Us, the first one, and it worked very well, where they showed a lot of violence, a lot of head bashing, and you'd see blood, and when people walked over a nail bomb, their bodies just didn't go flying. It actually blew up into pieces. The legs would go flying, and limbs and everywhere. So there's still going to be that in the game. So it says it's also been reported that some scenes will just cut to black screen, which is linked to death. In this way, the player will have to imagine how things ended for the characters. In The Last of Us 2, making the dying process more terrifying than seeing the character actually die before one's eyes. So actually, if you think back to The Last of Us, the first one, they already used that cut to black when Sam killed himself. Or was it Henry? Henry killed himself after he shot his brother Sam. And if you remember, he was freaking out, and then he put the gun to his head. And they didn't show him shoot it. Once he pulled the trigger, it cut to black. And then all of a sudden, the next chapter started. And if you think about it, that was pretty impactful. That was pretty powerful when it just cuts to black, because you do have to imagine what happened and how they would react. And maybe it was more impactful than actually showing, his brains flying all over the place and his head opening up. Maybe they're gonna, I don't know how this would work during gameplay, but maybe they'll use it more often during cutscenes. I think that's pretty much all we have for now, as far as, you know, rumors and whatnot. The most solid piece of evidence we have is that leaked article from Game Informer talking about The Last of Us 2. And nothing has been confirmed by Naughty Dog, nothing has been confirmed by Neil Druckmann, but PlayStation is holding a conference September 7th. Everybody's expecting them to reveal the new PlayStation, the 4.5 or the 4K, or they're calling it the PlayStation Neo, the code name Neo. So we don't know what it's going to be called, but everybody's expecting them to reveal that. But I also hope that they're going to reveal The Last of Us 2. And it would be even cooler if it was a launch title, because if The Last of Us 2 came as a launch title with this PlayStation 4K, then I'll definitely pre-order one. And I would have to go invest in a 4K monitor, but I wouldn't mind it. I'm sure that game is going to look great, and I would love to play it in 4K. Stay tuned to GT Solly for more news. As soon as I get any new piece of information, I'll be updating it right here. So hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and I'll keep you guys up to date on all the latest of The Last of Us 2.